And I hope you're well.
Yes, good morning, Senna. Good morning to the listeners.
The cold has left you, I guess.
Well, there's been an improvement.
But not fully.
Not fully, but we'll get there.
Oh, this cold...
It's a process.
This cold really likes you. But
some of my rather interesting friends have a different interpretation as to why I've been battling a sore throat for as long as I have.
And that there are people
they seem to believe that some people are unpleased.
Oh, okay. So they are choking you spiritually.
My penchant to speak the truth to authority. And I say, whether I speak or not, I have other options. I can always write, which I do.
I realize you write nowadays a lot.
Well, my background requires me to write.
Well, let's go to the Islamic Senior High School. I'm sure you're hearing what has happened. Students who are not pleased with the fact that with regular knockdowns, that they feel threatening their life, decided to protest, and the rest of the story continues. First of all, what are your observations of what you've heard so far?
Well, yes, I've also become aware of that very unfortunate incident. I say it's unfortunate because normally you would not expect to hear that security personnel or the police service has acted high-handedly with regards to what, for all intents and purposes, was described as a peaceful student protest. And I believe that in this narrative, the context is important to state. The information so far available indicates that this is a school that is situated right on the side of a major road, and that both students and teachers have been victims of vehicular accidents. All efforts made to get the requisite authorities to do something about the situation in terms of perhaps putting up some speed ramps or even maybe some zebra crossing to prevent the recurrent accidents have failed. And apparently it's as a result of this inability of the requisite officials to take the needed action that then caused the students to seek to draw public attention and the attention of the powers that be to this their unfortunate plight. And in doing so, they did what any group of people would do when you come to the conclusion that the structures and the systems in place and the legitimate avenues to seek redress have yielded no benefit. And so the students decided to demonstrate. Now, one would have thought that in trying to at least clear the road, the police personnel or security agencies who were deployed there and by whom we are yet to find out clearly would have been measured and would have been very circumspect in their approach as far as these young men and women are concerned. The information I have so far is that that didn't happen. And in fact, even after the arrival of the police personnel, at the time, most of the students are dispersed back onto the school campus, only for the police personnel to force their way onto the campus. And that was when the clash occurred, where it was claimed that the students were pelting the police personnel with stones. And in reaction, they then decided to open fire. And you see, Sana, what is worrying to me and what should agitate the minds of Ghanaians is the tendency of the members of the Ghana Police Service to use live ammunition as a method of crowd control. That does not happen. Once you use live ammunition, The consequence, obviously, is that you are aiming to kill. So why would seasoned, if properly trained police personnel, in their attempt perhaps to even protect themselves and even to disperse a group of students protesting, decide to use live ammunition when there are many other options, including the use of rubber bullets? That, to me, is what is most worrisome. And I say it is worrisome because this is not the first time we have become aware of security agencies, and in particular, police personnel deployed to deal with a demonstration or to disperse a demonstrating crowd, being accused with evidence of the usage of live ammunition. That cannot be acceptable. And particularly so in this circumstance, when these were students who were not weaponized. Yes, they may have thrown a stone or two here and there, but does that warrant the opening of fire, including the use of live ammunition? So I am deeply worried, and I think every Ghanaian should be worried. It is becoming one too many. And many people are beginning to float all kinds of theories. But for now, I want to reserve my own interpretations of what is going on with regards to this practice of using live ammunition as a way of crowd control by elements of the Ghana Police Service.
There is the issue of the students and solving that particular the problem they have raised. We understand the IGP has provided ropes that are supposed to be used as a temporary measure to control speeding on that particular stretch of road. What are you anticipating from the authorities that are concerned? Because I heard your colleague in Parliament and Deputy Education Minister, Reverend Tim Fodjo, was there yesterday.
Well, I think that it is good that the IGP went there as swiftly and quickly. I think that it is also reassuring that the Deputy Minister for Education was there. But in terms of a resolution to the issue that precipitated this clash, what you have narrated, I think, is not sustainable. So what we ought to be looking at is to see the Ghana Highway Authority, because I believe that this is a major road. If it is not, then we want to see the urban roads, people move there and try to construct some speed ramps that will reduce the levels of speed. But I also believe that this issue requires a thorough investigation. And this is why some of us have been clamoring and advocating and calling for an independent investigative body. Because when you have, the same institution investigating misconduct or the high-handed approach by elements drawn from within itself, anyone who knows about, natural justice and the tendency for any institution to try and shield itself from public opprobrium or embarrassment will tell you that that investigation clearly is not going to give you the best. So this is yet another example, many others can be cited, that I think that rather than having the police administration itself investigate this matter, we should be seeing an independent body investigating this matter as well as many others. Look, Sana, we always talk about best practices, and we look beyond the shores of the country and even beyond the shores of the continent to other jurisdictions for best practices. I have had the chance to live in the United States. I studied in Norway. I was in Canada as well, and I've been to many other countries. Nowhere do you have a police service investigating itself. there is always an independent body that is not composed of elements of that same entity, particularly security agencies, which looks into matters of this nature. And I think that is what we have to clamor for and to advocate for. Because as long as we continue to allow the police themselves to investigate misconduct, misbehavior, or the use of excessive force by members of the police service, clearly we will not be getting to the bottom of the issue, and the sanctions that ought to be made and the policy directions that the outcome of such investigations should lead to will never happen. And that is why we continue to move in circles.
But there's also the issue of, because in this circumstance, we are talking about students who have been complaining of this for a while. So I'm guessing school authorities who have known the situation, because we had recently a teacher was even knocked down. I'm sure if the school authorities knew, the Ghana Education Service would have heard about it. The Municipal Assembly perhaps might have heard about it. The response that is given, to the extent that students got onto the street and started protesting, that should also worry you. The way we respond to matters that are of concern to our students, especially when this leads to even death.
Yes, Senator, you're right. I have had cause to complain, and I believe that you will bear me out, about the lethargic way in which we respond to important matters affecting members of society. We have a tendency to wait for tragedies to occur, and then we act after the fact. At a time which matters have already gotten out of hand, we ought to reset our mindset to be preemptive and proactive. Indeed, my own information informs me, and today I'll be getting more information, that it is not for a lack of effort on the part of the school authorities and indeed the students, that they have made several attempts to get the needed attention from the entities and the powers that be, clothed with the power and capacity to deal with this matter to no avail. So yes, you are right, that if only perhaps the district education office had taken this issue up with the regional education directorate, and if they had failed to persuade the urban rules in the Ashanti region, and if they had escalated it to the national level, and maybe even brought this to the attention of our committee and perhaps even the minister, this event could have been averted. So you are right. And that is my biggest personal peeve as far as our attitude as Ghanaians are concerned. And in this matter, I wouldn't even exonerate Parliament itself. There are so many pressing issues that ought to occupy the attention of Parliament as a whole and parliamentary committees in particular, which will require that even every week we should be summoning various ministers. We do our part, but then you file a question which is supposed to be an urgent question, whereupon our own rules require that it shouldn't take more than a week for a minister to appear to respond to an urgent question, and sometimes it takes up to 6 months. I mean, are we serious? And yet we don't have the capacity to hold their feet to the fire. Leadership, particularly on the ruling party side, would come and make excuse after an excuse when urgent matters exist that ought to be addressed in a timely manner to affect some of these issues. I mean, it is just not right. It is not acceptable. And we continue to fail the people of this country with this lethargic attitude towards preemptively and proactively dealing with issues so that they don't escalate and we don't become victims of these sorts of tragedies. It's most unfortunate. And I state this very truthfully and forcefully.
Doc, thank you very much for speaking to us.
It's a pleasure, Senator.
And Dr. CLEMENT APAAK is Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament, speaking to us on this matter of what has happened at the Islamic Senior High School. Take us through, and then perhaps you can, because I haven't heard your thoughts on this.